Today we are going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of the 2024 NFL Draft. If you're watching this, you're absolutely a deep draft fan just like me. We're going to be looking at the interior offensive linemen, the top 10 of that group in this 2024 NFL Draft, guards and centers. Maybe not the strongest class, but I do think that there's still going to be a lot of guys that are starting in the NFL this year and for years to come. So definitely a group of guys to keep an eye on. Let's go ahead and dive into my top 10, starting at number 10 with Christian Mahogany out of Boston College. He's a redshirt senior, 6'3", 314 pounds, had a 74.9 PFF grade, allowed 7 pressures and no sacks. With Mahogany, he is somebody that lost his 2022 season due to an ACL injury, came back in 2023 and did show some nice things. I think the biggest thing with Mahogany, he's a really good athlete. He's got good length. He's strong. He's not going to be overwhelmed with power. That's certainly kind of the first step of being a successful guard in the NFL. He's got decent movement skills. I do think he is a better athlete moving forward in the running game and kind of more of a straight line athlete than he is laterally, but I still think that he has adequate lateral agility. It's maybe not special, but it is there. The thing with Mahogany that is still kind of a little bit concerning to me, I do think that there are some major issues with his technique. First and foremost, his hands. I think that he bear hugs guys a little bit too often. You want to see him get his hands inside, really into the chest of the pass rusher or the guy that he is trying to block. I think there's times where he can get off balance and really lose his leverage, and for whatever reason, I mean, he has the length. It's not because of length, but I think he lunges too often as well. It gets him off balance, and it causes him to be kind of out of control and put his hands in the wrong place, and he just ducks his head a little too often as well. So, I think that is a major issue. His leverage grade is something that has kind of kept him down. I also think in pass protection, just the ability to mirror pass rushers and the ability to recognize what moves the defender is going to and countering that, I just don't think that he's quite as far along as you would like him to be for being a redshirt senior. I have a 72.0 grade on him. That's around 3 to 4 grade. I would take him towards the end of day 2 or early day 3. I think there's still a lot to work on. He is 23 years old already, so it's not like he's this young 20-year-old that's still learning a bunch of technique. I think he still has a ways to go to really be a super successful offensive lineman in the NFL, but he definitely has the traits, the length, the power, and the athleticism, at least when it comes to his testing, that makes you think that he can be a starting caliber guard in the NFL. At number 9, we have Mason McCormick out of South Dakota State, also a redshirt senior, a 6th-year player, 6'4", 309 pounds, had an 87.6 PFF grade, 3 pressures, and no sacks. Out of South Dakota State, he's definitely somebody that you can just see that he is burying guys. He is playing guys in the FCS, so that's not the SEC, that's not the Big Ten. It's definitely going to be a big jump when it comes to the competition level that he's facing. But you want to see those guys that are at a lower level truly dominating the guy in front of him, and McCormick does that on a regular basis. He absolutely shows the nastiness, the toughness, and the desire to just bury the guy in front of him. He also has a great offensive lineman aesthetic, not that means anything for his talent, but I think that's very important to note in his scouting report. With McCormick, it's interesting because he tested like one of the best interior offensive linemen, over the past couple of years. I don't see quite that kind of athleticism on his tape. He looks like a good athlete, especially moving forward. When he is climbing to the second level, he can meet linebackers at their spot. He can climb well, he can pull across and be devastating, get out on screen, stuff like that. But I think in short areas, when a guy gives him a quick shimmy and goes the other way, crosses his face, I do think whether it's kind of a recognition and just a mental thing that it takes him a little bit longer to recognize what move is being used against him, or if it is athleticism in short areas, I think that it's kind of a little bit of a struggle when it comes to that in his pass protection. I think his hands can continue to get better as well. And with McCormick, I just do think there are some technical flaws. Again, for a 6th-year player that is playing at a lower competition level, that is a little bit concerning, but I still have a true round 3 grade on him. I think that he may not be ready to go week 1. I think there's still some technique things that he needs to work on, and that jump from the FCS level is going to be quite a big one going into the NFL. But I think McCormick has the traits, the athleticism, the nastiness, the desire to absolutely be a starting caliber guard in the NFL as well. He is just somebody that has shown a lot at South Dakota State. And if nothing else, you love just the nastiest in demeanor that he would bring to your NFL offensive line room. At number 8, we have another FCS prospect. That is Christian Haynes out of Yukon. He is a redshirt senior as well, 6'2", 317, had an 80.2 PFF grade, had 12 pressures and 1 sack allowed in 2023 as well. With Haynes, he kind of has a similar conversation. He is a longtime starter at Yukon. I think he's a good athlete, especially kind of in the straight line directional when he is asked to climb, when he's asked to pull. He definitely can be really good in that situation. I don't think he necessarily has the best true lateral agility and the ability to quickly change direction, especially in pass protection. I think that is something that I do definitely want to see him improve on. And I think just in general, his movement ability in short areas is a little bit, it's just not super consistent. And I think it could hold him back from being like a superstar lineman. I also just think that he does bear hug guys. He does not get his hands inside where he needs to be. He's a little bit more of one of those guys that lets the defensive lineman attack him. And I was a little bit disappointed in his film. A lot of guys have him as a true second round talent, somebody that's one of the highest rated guards in the class. And I mean, I think he's a good player. I have a true round 3 grade on him. I just don't know that I would say he is a day 1 starter and somebody I would feel super confident in plugging and playing in my offensive line. I think he can get there, but I do think that there are some inconsistencies in his game. He is nasty when it comes to the running game. He can move guys. He sustains really well. Once he does get his mitts on you, you're not going anywhere because he latches on, especially when he climbs to that linebacker level. He latches on and he will not let go. I really like Haynes being that grading run blocker, somebody the offense can run behind, and being a pretty decent athlete as well. I just think that his lateral movement does limit his ability to really mirror guys in pass protection, and then there's some inconsistencies with his hands, and he can be a little bit late to identify blocks as well that keeps him from being, higher up on this list. At number 7, we have Limmer out of Arkansas, a redshirt senior, 6'4", 302, predominantly played center at Arkansas. His PFF grade was a 74.5, gave up 12 pressures and 3 sacks. The thing with Limmer is, you want strength and athleticism. This guy got it. He put up 39 bench reps, the most of any offensive lineman this year at the combine. He also has great movement skills. I definitely think he would be well used in an outside zone, wide zone system that allows him to get on the move and really use the athleticism, because I think it is a major plus in his game. I also think, unlike a lot of these guys on this list, he can mirror really well. He has active feet. He does a good job of staying in front of the defender, recovering well. I just think it gives him a little bit of a better margin for error when he's beat to shuffle the feet and get back in front of that defender. I really do like his movement skills and his pure strength. And I think that, once he gets latched onto you, it is really tough to get away from Limmer just because of that athleticism and that strength combination. The issue with Limmer is he struggles a lot with length. He has just 31-inch arms, and that is problematic on tape as well. I think you can see at times he gets really lungy when it comes to trying to connect with that defensive lineman. That is because, he can't quite get the arms in their chest, and so it causes him to really lean. It causes him to be off balance, and that is problematic for him. I also think there's times where he's not quite quick enough to what I would like to see when it comes to identifying rushers, blitzes, stunts, things like that. And then the hand placement, like I said, if he can get it inside and really latch onto you, he has good grip strength. It's a struggle to get his hands inside, to swipe longer defenders off. I think that if he goes against, the really long interior defenders, obviously Chris Jones gives a lot of interior guys trouble, but somebody that's super long and super athletic like Chris Jones, I think, would eat Limmer alive. So it's a trade-off with Limmer. I think he's going to be really good in the move-run game. I think he's going to be really good at recovering and has good athleticism. I have a true third-round grade on him. I think he can eventually be a starting center. He's just probably not going to be a guy that is super great against every matchup, and that's why you're drafting him on the middle to late day 2, and I think he can be a starting quality player, but there are matchups that are going to give him trouble, and I think you kind of know what you're getting with Limmer if you draft him likely in that day 2, early day 3 range. At number 6, we have Dominick Puni out of Kansas, redshirt senior, 6'5", 313 pounds, had an 80.6 PFF grade, 8 pressures, and 0 sacks. He predominantly played left tackle for Kansas. I think most likely he's going to be moved inside. He does have over 33-inch arms, but I think most likely he is going to be best on the interior. He also played center some at the Senior Bowl, so I think he could potentially move there as well. You really have some versatility with him, and there's a lot of things to like when it comes to Puni. I think that there's still some inconsistencies when it comes to his technique, his hand placement, once he latches onto you, the ability to have that strong grip strength and sustain through the play, I think is something he's still continuing to work on. I think he does do a good job in pass protection, mirroring. He has good athleticism, keeping kind of everything moving in one fluid movement. His hands, his feet, his core, kind of all of it works really well together. And I think he has good strength and movement ability. I definitely think there's still things that he can continue to work on. In the moving run game, he's really impressive, pulling across, something that, he can climb to the second level and be really devastating on those blocks. But I think head up blocking, he can continue to kind of get into the defender's chest and manipulate the contact a little bit more than allowing the defender to manipulate where he is at. So I think that he is somebody that will take a little bit of development to just kind of see where his best position is in the offensive line. I have a 78.67 grade on him, though. I would take him somewhere near the end of round 2 or early day 3. I think he can be a really nice lineman that can be a versatile piece and kind of allow you to get your best 5 guys out there. May start somewhat as like a swing tackle or a guy, that first guy off the bench kind of thing, but I think he provides really in a pinch 5 position versatility on the offensive line, which is so valuable. And I ultimately think he will be a really good starting guard or center in the NFL as well. At number 5, a player I am a little bit lower on than consensus for sure is Jordan Morgan out of Arizona, a redshirt senior, 6'5", 311 pounds, has an 83.5 PFF grade, 14 pressures, and 2 sacks. He played left tackle for Arizona. I think he's going to have to move into guard. I didn't think that his foot speed or his length is going to be good enough to survive at tackle, so that's why he's in the interior class on my rankings. He has pretty good athleticism, but for whatever reason, I don't think it looked very smooth on tape. The ability out in space to match defenders, mirror. He has that ability. It's just speed to power does give him some fits. I think that at times he gets his feet stopped, and that causes a lot of trouble. So that, along with the length that he's going to face on the outside, I think is going to eventually force him into guard. My concern with him at guard is I don't know that he has super elite play strength. I did see him lose to power in the bull rush a little bit too often for my liking. I didn't think in the running game he showed a ton of nastiness. I think that he was pretty effective at walling guys off, at keeping them away from the running back, and ultimately that's what matters. It's just, he's not generating a bunch of movement in the running game. He can climb and be effective at the second level, but I don't think he's down blocking a nose tackle and then climbing up to the second level super consistently. In pass protection, he does mirror well. He has pretty decent hands, and his movement ability, in theory, is really good as well, especially on the interior. I don't think he's going to be beat laterally very often at all. It's just his ability to anchor and really be able to mitigate the bull rush that I do have a little bit of concern with. I like Jordan Morgan. I have said a lot of negative things about him. I think his movement skills, his technique, his demeanor, he was a captain. I do think that he can certainly play at the NFL level. I just have some questions as far as where his best spot is going to be, because I think really his athleticism and block identification is going to be best at tackle, but I don't know that he has the length or the kind of connection between his upper and lower half to play tackle in that much space. So I just think he's a very interesting evaluation. I still have a round 2 grade on him. Like I said, the athleticism, the leadership, I really like what he can do. It's just I'm not quite sure where his best spot is going to be on the offensive line, and I don't think it's quite as clear-cut as some of these other guys that I have ranked above him. At number 4, I have Cooper Beebe, the guard out of Kansas State. BB's somebody that I really enjoyed watching. He's 6'3", 322 pounds at an 83.9 PFF grade, 9 pressures and 2 sacks allowed in 2023. BB's just kind of built like a fire hydrant. He's not super tall. He's really bulky. He does have a little bit of short arm problems as well. So he definitely can occasionally be caught lunging. He can get off balance. There's definitely some of that in his game. He tested really well. I didn't see quite that level of athleticism on tape. I think he's a good mover. I think he's got solid lateral agility. He can climb to the second level. That's all definitely there. But I don't think that he played quite like the elite way that he tested. But I really just like a lot of his intangibles. He's really nasty in the running game. He will look to bury guys. He's great at climbing to the second level, latching on, and just moving guys off the ball. And I love to see that. I also think he's great at identifying blitzes, stunts, things like that. He is really good at knowing who to go after, who to block, who his assignment is going to be. And I really, really think that he just provides a model of consistency on the offensive line that I think is really good. Unlike a lot of these guys that I think will struggle if thrown in day one, I'm pretty confident that Cooper Beebe is going to be a pretty solid, at worst, NFL guard for a couple of years. I don't think he necessarily has the high-end traits that some of these other guys have. He doesn't have that elite athleticism and strength and stuff like that. I think it's all perfectly good enough to be a starting caliber player in the NFL, but I do think that he doesn't have that elite length. He doesn't have necessarily elite athleticism that shows up on tape. I just think that he is a really fun player to watch. He has that stereotypical nasty guard type of mentality that I just love. And I do think that he is pretty refined at this point, where I'm pretty confident throwing him out there in week 1 and him being a pretty good player in his rookie year. I do have an 83.33 grade on him, a true round 2 grade. I would take him somewhere kind of middle of round 2, and I think you would be pretty happy getting a player of that caliber in that spot that you feel pretty good about throwing out there in week 1. At number 3, we have Graham Barton out of Duke, senior, 6'5", 311 pounds, had a 75.9 PFF grade, gave up 11 pressures and 2 sacks. Barton's a really interesting evaluation. He played left tackle. I don't think that he really had the foot speed, which is weird because he's such a good tester. I thought there were a lot of times, kind of like Jordan Morgan, where his feet would stop. He would kind of get caught out. I just don't think he gets a ton of depth in his kick slides, and that caused him some problems. I also think that while he doesn't have like super short arms, he's just kind of under that 33-inch threshold. I do think that that caused him some issues. It caused him to have some lunging tendencies that got him off balance. He did have quite a few penalties as well, and I think a big reason for that is he was trying to overcompensate lunging at the lineman in front of him, and that got him off balance, and he would pull guys down, get holding penalties, stuff like that. But this guy is an elite mover, and I think especially on the interior, he'd be one of the best moving guards kind of in the entire league. You're not going to beat him around the corner. He has great lateral agility. I think that that's going to be his best trait in the NFL. There's definitely been some talk about him potentially playing center or guard. I think you could play him either spot. I do really think he could be a great center in a wide zone blocking scheme because of that movement that he has, that true athleticism that he shows on tape. I don't think he's the strongest guy in the world. I do think there are times that he gets pushed back, and you can see that on film. He's not the nastiest in the running game, much like Jordan Morgan. I think they're very similar players. I'm just a little bit higher on Barton, where I don't think he's the longest guy. I think he's got really good athleticism. He's not the nastiest player, but I think moving in at center where he can really have good pass protection, mirroring technique, his hand placement is pretty good as well. I definitely think that Barton has some really nice traits that moving him into the interior, most likely center, I think is going to be his best position, would mitigate a lot of the issues with the foot speed, the length, things like that, and it would really play to a lot of his strengths. I could definitely see him going in the first round, and I think that might be a little high for me. I have a true round 2 grade on him, but he's kind of on the higher end of that. I definitely think he will be a top 50 player for me. So I do think that Barton has a lot of really nice traits, some good technique. I just think that interior is going to be the best position for him. At number 2, we have Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia, 6'2", 315 pounds, 77.5 PFF grade, 6 pressures and 0 sacks. Zach Frazier is a 4-time state wrestling champion in high school, and it shows on his tape. I think wrestling is one of the most valuable skills that a lot of centers and interior linemen can learn, because it's all about leverage, being able to turn defenders, manipulate them, and just use your pure core strength. And I think Frazier, you can absolutely see all of that in his game. He does such a good job when it comes to leverage and just pure strength and power. I have no concerns about, his anchor, and just completely move guys off the ball, turn them, and pretty much do whatever he wants when he gets his hands inside and really in their chest. He is so good at sustaining, at being able to just dominate the guy in front of him. I do think there are times that he's going to lose the length battle. I don't think he's the best at identifying blockers on a consistent basis. His hands, especially in pass protection, are a little bit inconsistent. I think he can get them outside. He's not quick to swipe things down out of his chest. I think there are definitely things, especially moving backwards in pass protection, that I don't have major concerns on, but they are things that he can continue to clean up. I think in the running game, the leverage he plays with, the tenacity, the desire to just bury the guy in front of him, and just that pure effort to sustain the block downfield and make sure your guy does not make the tackle. I love that in Zack Frazier's game. I definitely think he can be a starting center. I think early day 2, probably within the top 40 is where he's going to go. I have an 84.67 on him. That's a round 1 to 2 grade. Not a true first round grade, but likely early day 2 is probably going to be where his best fit is. But really a fan of Frazier's game. And that brings us to number 1, Jackson Powers Johnson, the center out of Oregon, 6'3", 328 pounds. Well-built dude, 84.5 PFF grade, just gave up 1 pressure and 0 sacks in 2023. His block identification is great. He's so good at identifying loopers and stunts, picking up the right guy on those assignments, and just calling out protections, things like that on a consistent basis. I think he does it very, very well. He plays with good strength, good movement ability, good leverage. I definitely think that when it comes to the physical profile of the game, he's very good in that regard as well. He can be a little bit clunky when it comes to just his lateral agility, mirroring guys in one-on-one situations. His hand placement can be inconsistent as well at times. He doesn't have the longest arms, and so he does need to be a little bit more proactive about swiping guys' hands off of him, really getting into the chest and being able to sustain blocks. I think especially when he climbs to the second level, you want to see him latch on and really kind of hold on to those guys and prevent them from pulling away. Obviously, you don't want to get penalties, but continuing to latch, get his hands inside, and being really effective downfield, I think, is where Powers Johnson can continue to improve. There was a lot of hype about him after the Senior Bowl, about him potentially going, middle of day 1. I don't think that's where he's going to end up. I think it's more likely going to be late day 1, early day 2. I don't think there's any interior guys that are going to be top 20 picks most likely. I honestly think that Barton or Powers Johnson are the most likely, maybe to like Miami or something like that. But I think, the first 19 picks or so, I would be pretty surprised if one of these interior guys do go. But Jackson Powers Johnson is my favorite of the bunch. It's not the strongest class, but I do think there are guys that will be starting caliber players in the NFL. If you got to this point in the video of an interior offensive line, please hit that subscribe button down below. I know you're a true draft fan just like me. It would truly help me out and would push this video out to other NFL draft fans just like you. If you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. It would truly mean a lot. Let me know who you want your favorite team to take. Who did I miss on this list? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one.